Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Season 4 here. Well, I finally got my hands on my Eradicators, so this is long overdue. I've done the deck already, like way long ago, as well as the testing, so it was just a matter of time of just getting my hands on it. Today we'll be going through the Dragonic Descendant deck profile, and as my life is getting a little bit more free in terms of time, you will see a bit more videos more often, so stick around. I do intend to get a Shiranui deck on this channel as well as Gridora, so I am reaching out for collaboration, so hopefully if the people respond, then you will see them. But in terms of Dragonic Descendant, I have one more extra treat for you. If you guys actually want to learn in depth about Dragonic Descendant, be it as the choices that you have in terms of Eradicators, since Eradicators has been around since 2013. We have more history than you, and we also have a lot of other stuff like deck building, choices, trigger lines up, everything, matchups. You can go and learn all of that in the description below on Axis Vanguard. So I wrote an entire article about Dragonic Descendant. I'm just gonna let you check it out. I put in a lot of effort in it. I seriously hope you guys enjoy it. I also got Commander Jamie to edit it. Commander Jamie, who's a really good writer. He's been receiving worldwide praise. He's a Seaman Pro, so check him out. He's the one who edited it. So if you don't trust me, you can trust him. So anyways, let's get into it. This is one of the variants for Dragonic Descendant. There's really so many variants you can do with this deck. I don't think I can review every single variant. So I'm just going to review what I think is practically the best build per se. This is also the best in terms of cost, I think. Although there are some expensive options I put in here. But first of all, as you probably would have seen in the title, there is no gauntlet. Alright, this is the non-gauntlet build. You want a gauntlet build, check somewhere else or check the article. We cover that as well. So just putting it out there, if you are a Naoki fan like me but just couldn't afford gauntlet, you can check the description or just leave this video. It's fine. First off, 4 copies of Eradicator, Dragonic Descendant. He's the big boy himself. He's back. Beautiful art. So he has 3 skills. I won't read to you all 3 skills, but yeah, you basically have to play 4 of him since he's the main. Generally, he is your ride target, but it depends on when you want to ride him. We'll get into that in just a bit. Our other grade 3 is 4 copies of Thunderous Beat. Thunderous Beat, who is the rare, he's a budget gauntlet, but then I'm inclined as well to give him some form of praise. Why? His first skill is, whenever a unit is bound during your turn, that means your side or the opponent's side, he gains 10. So he's a 22k beat stick. Just like that. You just bind something, boom, free plus 10. And while you could say, oh, that's not very good, but you must keep in mind this is on rearguard. Gauntlet Buster is strictly tied to having a vanguard based presence. So if you just call Gauntlet, he's just a 12k vanilla just to wave at you. So this has its uses in terms of a beatdown. If you're trying to rush down, you can just call out your Thunderous Beats and just start whacking at 22k. His second ability is what gives him some form of credibility that he is a Gauntlet substitute. Well, it's not a strong substitute, but it works. Counterblast 1 when your Vanguard attacks, it gains 1 crit. Simplest skill ever. Like if you can read, you can get this card, no problem. So I still think it's not bad. It is an Eradicator. There are other builds out there for Descendant. I mean, there's even a Dragonic build for Descendant. I've seen that out there, but I think in terms of following the whole flavor of the deck and beyond that, just the cohesiveness of the deck, I feel Thunderous Beat still is the best option per se. If you can buy a Gauntlet, go ahead. But if not, this is still what I pick. Alright, our grade 2 lineup is where it gets a bit dicey. So we play 4 copies of Suhail. I know you guys don't like me throwing it, but I have to lift it over the camera. Alright, 4 Spark Rays as well as 3 of this guy, and we will explain why in just a bit. So, why did we pick each of these? Suhail is pretty obvious. His skill is when he's on XL, he gains 5. So if you're on XL2, which is the superior XL gift, he automatically becomes a 19k attacker, which is not bad considering that it's really hard to get any form of free numbers in Eradicators or just non-Vanquisher Narukami. So this is acceptable. The second skill is when placed on Vanguard and or Rearguard, discard a card from your hand and draw. Discard a card from your hand and bind one of your opponent's front row rearguard and then draw if your Vanguard is an Eradicator. So this is one of the reasons why Eradicators is a sub-clan for all my fellow 2013 friends out there. Hello. So you need as many Eradicator people as possible. But then again, it's not like you need to maximize it, which is the reason why stuff like Recklessness can still make the cut. So you can still do it as well as, I mean, it's not impossible for you to play non-Eradicators in Descendant. It is flexible in that extent, so I still recommend it. It's not bad. But then again, you should have an Eradicator Vanguard, which Descendant can fulfill, and Suhail himself is an Eradicator, so it helps. Then we play 4 of Spark Rays. Spark Rays is an interesting choice because Spark Rays literally does nothing on the offensive. But Spark Rays manages your resources and your hand very well. When placed on Vanguard, he gains 5,000 power. Then you open the top 5, add an Eradicator to your hand, and then discard a card. First of all, by nature of this card, he's already a 14k when placed. This helps in more ways than you think because he can get over a grade 2 force number, which is 10k. And you may say, oh, okay, that's not very big of a deal, is it? Well, it actually is. If you're at 9k and you swing at 10k, if you're not willing to call and commit, then you may just not pull the trigger and the attack fails. But with Spark Rays, it's guaranteed because he's always 14k. So, just something out there. Vanguard Rearguard skill, when his attack hits, Soul Blast 1, draw. When your Vanguard attack hits. So, you can ride him as a 14k beat stick, right? And then you can filter and get an Erad you want. Like, you know, if you want to fix for Descendant, you can go ahead. And then after that, when you hit, you Soul Blast when you draw. So, really on a grade 2 turn, this is a very powerful play. It's centered around Eradicators, but it's in a way that you will still benefit just by riding him. As a rearguard though, he is pretty weak. He only has that Soul Blast 1 to draw if the attack hits skill. So it is a trade-off. For me, I think because this deck does play Descendant, who can copy the skills of Vanguard. So you could use this skill, and then again with Descendant. So I think he's not bad at all, but if you are planning to play a variant of Descendant, then this is probably the first one you cut. So just keep that in mind. Is this guy good for a Gauntlet Buster deck? I have yet to see. I don't think it's that bad, but you could test it out. From my testing, it seems okay. Last is the Trial deck Fast Boy. It is Recklessness Dragon. When placed, Counterblast 1, bind one of your opponent's front row rear guards. It's just that simple. And when he attacks, if your opponent has one less front row rear guards, he gains 3k on the rear guard. So it's a 12k attacker. Like I said, free power, very hard to find in Eradicators. So yeah. Now you must have been wondering, why do I keep saying this phrase? If you've seen the great card that is Plasma Catapult, you probably understand what I mean by that. It gains no power whatsoever. It's strictly a on Vanguard overcosted retire, then you draw, or if not, it's just an overcosted retire tool on rearguard. And it's a triple rare, mind you. So in terms of where we put our money, like, let's not spend money on things that we don't need, if you know what I mean. Like, it's just an Eradicator. It's not even worth the price tag. Unless you're telling me you're selling at $1 a piece, now buy it. But it's not about budget, because I could afford it. And I think most can, because it's not that expensive, triple rare. But it's not worth even playing at this point. You don't even want to copy that with Descendant, because why do you need that? Descendant has his own Soul Blast 1 to spot removal, so there is no situation for you to do this overcosted. But as I mentioned in the article, there is a benefit for Plasma Catapult. He's very good at countering, early game aggression. He's the #1 way of turning the game back. But then again, we don't really face early game aggression anymore. We are more facing towards an instant turn 3 kill in the likes of, they set up really fast like Yasuye, Lua, Gurgit. So in that sense, it's not really that good. So I would still think that you don't really need that ability to type back in that case, so you might as well just play something that can help you as a versatile tool. Recklessness Dragon still gets the spot removal on Vanguard at a much lower cost, so I still think at the end of the day, he is more worth it. Other options for Eradicators, as I will mention, are stuff like Zuitan, Cho-O. They are both fine in my opinion. This deck won't really need them, but if you're playing other Eradicators or another build, you will see them shine more. But there's a reason why we don't play him. Cho-O specifically because he takes too much counterblast. Alright, now for the Grade 1 lineup. The Grade 1 lineup is really exciting to me because it's quite nuanced. It's not something you see every day. We play 4 Desert Gunner Gaiden, 4 Rising Phoenix. Oops. 4 Rising Phoenix. Oh, you can't see, right? I'm gonna move this one. 2 Bolt Capture. And then we play 4 Mighty Bolt Dragoon. So you notice straight away that I don't mention a single Eradicator. So why is that? Nozuku is the same as this guy. He's a search as well. But the reason why he's played over him, for me, is that he has an extra 5k boost. He's a 13k booster or attacker. Like I said, free power, very hard to come across in Eradicators. Nozuku gains no power whatsoever. So, if Nozuku lets you search for grade 2, but then again, when you play this guy, it's okay to get as many grade 3s as possible because you will still be swinging for a nice 22k beatstick. Rather than Nozuku, who gives you a grade 2, but if your grade 2 looks something like this, it's not a great aspect for a rearguard, if you know what I mean. So that is why Mighty Bolt's being played. But I understand Mighty Bolt is a bit pricey, so if you don't want to invest in Mighty Bolt, Nozuku is still a perfectly fine option. It's just that if you have the money, he's worth it. 2, Bolt Capture. Bolt Capture is good because it's a free on-place drag something forward. Eradicator's big problem is that, as I mentioned, you don't have a way to actually target the back row. You can only start dragging the back row in the case of stuff like Dragonic Descendant, is if there is already something in the front row. So +1, bind one of your opponent's front row, then move one of the back row to the front. Or in the case of Gauntlet Buster, bind all of your front row rear guards, then drag the back forward. But if you don't have that, you just have no way of actually reaching the back. Bolt Capture instantly solves that for you. Why at 2? Because that's all he does. He just gives you that little, oh, here you go, and then he's just an 8k vanilla, so you don't even use him in every matchup. So I think 2 is a fairly safe number. Rising Phoenix is without doubt the main MVP of the Grade 1 lineup. You see in stuff like Suhail and Spark Rays that we just need to discard cards to draw. So if you're doing that, a good piece for you to be throwing away is Rising Phoenix, since Rising Phoenix can superior kill itself from the drop zone, so it makes sense to use him at max. Then our last one is Desert Gunner Gaibin. Gaibin is the traditional, he's here for restanding vanguards, and as you probably know, Descendant is a restander. Gaibin's skill is, when after your vanguard attack hits, give a unit plus 3k and Sentinel block. So this can stack. So for example, if I Descendant, then I attack with Descendant, then I get plus 3k to a unit. So let's say Descendant, then I will restand if the attack fails, then I will re-attack again, then after that I can give someone else, like maybe a Reckless Dragon, another 3k power. So in that case, the value of Gaibin really snowballs for every attack Descendant makes. Even if it's 1, it gives you 3k in the Sentinel restrict, which is nice considering Protect is dying from this meta Anger Blader Y. But in other words, it's still not that bad. It definitely has its uses, I'll give you that. But then again, the other drawback is if you only get 1 attack, Gaibin is not that great. And remember, Gaibin is 7k and not 8. So there are definitely trade-offs to consider. But at the end of the day, I still think for what it's worth at this point in time, this Grade 1 lineup that I have presented to all of you today is the most versatile in terms of what it can and cannot do. Of course, if you want to tweak your deck, like I said, Descendant, there is no one fixed way of building it. So just test it and have fun. If you see an article, there are more than one ways to use this deck. Our trigger lineup, as I will also mention, you can go in 2 routes. You can either use fronts or you could use crits. For me, I prefer to use crits, but that's strictly a personal preference. If you want to use fronts, you can go ahead. There is seriously no flaw in it. It's almost the same result. It's just a difference in the attack pattern. You can see it in the article below what I mean by that. So we play 6 draws with 4 Wyvern Guard Gult. Then we play 6 crits. I picked 4 of this one because this is the better. My camera froze. Alright, sorry about that. Then we play 4 heal. Our starter, Sparky Dragoon. If you want to play the Erads, go ahead. You want to play anyone else, go ahead. But yeah, that basically is it for Dragonic Descendant. As you see, the build is nothing complex. Descendant really brings Narukami back to its roots. Whether you think about it from a 2013 standpoint or even from the start of Standard. If you notice, this build for Descendant is very reminiscent of the way you build stuff like Death Onyx Drill. It's just a change in pieces with evolving time, but the playstyle remains almost the same, which is kind of shocking that Bushiroad could actually design this card that way. The fact that Descendant just copies an Eradicator skill opens up so many possibilities. On one hand, you could just say, oh, it's just Gauntlet Buster support lah, don't need to think so much about it. But on the other hand, it just gives you a larger toolbox for that turn. And at the same time, in case it has not struck you yet, you can copy a Descendant skill. Thus, every once per turn skill triggers twice. So, scaling-wise, Descendant is not as broken as Gurgi or Yasuye, but I still think that this is a relatively fun. This Descendant overall is not a budget deck. As you'll see Descendant prices, it's not the cheapest triple rare on the market, and so are some of the pieces that you need in the deck. But for what it's worth, I still think it's relatively affordable. But of course, if you can't, then don't force it. But if you're an Eradicator fanboy like me, if you're a 2013 fanboy, or you just want a cheap Naru deck, you can either pick this, or you could pick Vermilion the Blood, which is coming out next year. So thank you all so much for watching. Like I said, I'm really sorry this has been severely delayed, but I'm just glad I could get it out. I'm glad this video could come out now rather than never. So I also want to thank the supplier who sold me these cards, because I was supposed to never get them. So yes, thank you for that. So thank you all so much for watching. Like I said one last time, the article is in the description below. You can just read it. You can, just go and learn, I guess, about Descendant. But if you don't want to, I hope this video has covered enough for you. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.